How's it going, everybody? This is team member Eric here, Dothraki Outdoors. Here to talk about and evaluate my 2024 hunting season. If you haven't already watched it, go check out how to make your hunting season better after a bad year, because I did have a bad year. That video is on my channel here. And a little shout out to Real World Deer Hunter for putting out this video. I told him I was going to probably do the same thing from my season perspective. So if you haven't watched him, check out his channel. I'll put a link in the description for his channel and for that video that he did. So, good dude, real world deer hunter. But yeah, for me, it was a bad season by my standards. I had a goal I was trying to accomplish, and quite frankly, I didn't accomplish it. My freezer wasn't empty, but it was as full as it could be, and didn't get on the right deer. So let's talk about that. So this year I hunted 11 full days, morning and evening or all day, and 15 half days, which were either evenings or mornings. And I believe 14 of those 15 were evenings. So if you figure on average, the average guy probably gets out about 15 to 20 times in the duration of a season, roughly. Maybe on the low end, 10 to 15. So regardless, I was above that average. So I was blessed with a good bit of time to hunt. So there's that. Of those combined between half days and full days, 26 sits on stand. 8 of those sits, I saw at least one deer. And 6 of those sits, I saw 2 deer or more. So early season, I was on some pretty good bucks. Unfortunately, like I said in that other video, a couple of them got killed by other hunters. But I was literally 2 days late on a couple bucks in one area that I was pretty familiar with, hunted there in the early season. Fortunately, that didn't happen. And my number one target buck, I went after him a couple times. Didn't happen in the early season. One sit, I was one of those multiple deer sits. I had 3 doe come by me. And looking back, I probably should have shot one because he wasn't my only shooter, and I only ended up with 1 doe, which that was killed on the 3rd Saturday of Pennsylvania's archery season, which was Saturday, October 19th. So that deer kept my streak of every kind of deer every year since 2007 alive, but I wasn't sad. I'm not satisfied with that at all. I'm thankful for that meat, don't get me wrong, but definitely not satisfied with that, and no buck harvest. Now, hunting that same buck, the following week, I did have a really cool encounter with a bear. However, that was another mistake on my part. That was the first day of Pennsylvania's 3-day inline doe and bear season, and I was, pretty sold out for that buck. And I only had 1 bear in that area on camera all year to that point. And the thought didn't even cross my mind to even consider taking my inline, because I was pretty much hunting him. I wasn't planning on shooting a doe. When in reality, I could just throw him in the shoulder, hung it from the tree, and if what happened, had a shot. Unfortunately, I chose not to bring the inline, and that bit me in the butt. Bear walked out 60 yards and mingled in front of me from between 60, 80 yards for about 5 minutes. Easily could have shot him with an inline, and because of my mistake, I did not. So, fast forward to that Monday, October 20th, the last Monday of Pennsylvania's archery season in October. We had cold front morning. I believe it was, I don't remember if it was high 20s or low 30s, but it was the coldest morning of the year to that point. So, I had decided to take a vacation day that day and hunt that day. And again, set up in the same area. And sure enough, my number one target buck that I've been hunting for 3 to 4 years now steps out. And he's trotting on a slow trot towards me. And I have plenty of time to get calmed down, get ready with my bow and everything. Unfortunately, I come to realize he is with a doe that's in the laurel, right next to the laurel line. He's traveling towards me. And he stopped at 60 yards, pretty much right where that bear came out of that thick cover. And once that doe started heading into the laurel, he just followed her. So she was probably in heater a little early. October 28th. It's pretty early for bucks being locked down in my area. Usually I don't see that till, maybe on the early end, November 5th, but November 7th to 10th is pretty much our peak lockdown. So that's pretty early with that being considered. So unfortunately, my setup was a little bit off. I wasn't quite as close to the bedding as I should have been. And because of that, I didn't have an ethical archery opportunity to that deer. So knowing he was still in that area, I went out the following Saturday, which wasn't a cold front, but still colder weather, being in the rut, whatever. And I did pass up a small 6-point that day. So I did have that encounter. Then the last day of archery out of that same tree, I had a doe come out to feed, just a little bit out of bow range, but she took a different route of travel than that one. But that route of travel, I definitely got some deer in camera after moving camera there, and I know that I need to hit that setup a little better. Now, I did forget to mention the first day of archery on the same property I killed my doe on. I passed up 3 legal bucks that morning. Between the buck I just explained to and the other ones that got shot by other hunters, I had a lot of shooters on camera last year. I had, for sure, actually, I had 5 bucks over 120, which for Pennsylvania, that's pretty good for this north central PA area. And I'm going to say 2 or 3 of them were over the 130-inch mark. Actually, 4 or 5 of them, were over that 130-inch mark. So that's, because of that, I held out. Like I said, it bit me in the butt, but I did. And I honestly don't regret any of the bucks I passed, because none of them really got me that excited. Don't get me wrong, I enjoyed seeing them, but none of them really, tripped my trigger, got me excited. So, passed up those 3 the first morning of season on private land, just a little 50-acre permission piece. Unfortunately, hunting is no longer allowed on that property, so I won't be back. But another mistake I made while we're on the private land topic is I did pick up a 30-acre permission property last year, but I didn't know the property. I never hunted it before. I was trying to figure out how and when deer moved, and turns out that's a great rut property. The deer, about November 4th to 8th, the deer are moving very well, cruising through a certain funnel on that property. So I know next year that's the time to be there. And there's another half that property. That property has 15 acres on one side of the road, 15 on the other. And the one side I didn't really get into much last year, so that's going to change. I plan on scouting that here soon, because I feel like there's a good deer population in that area. So just need to take full advantage of that property. As for the rest of my archery season, probably one of the worst ruts I've ever seen. I'm sure part of that was me, but I also heard a lot of reports from fellow hunters about, for whatever reason, a weird rut this year. I'm not saying, deer came into heat earlier or later than usual, or the moon did this or the moon did that. I'm not saying anything like that, but not sure if it's weather or what, but just stuff wasn't normal. There wasn't the normal cruising like there normally is. I just saw a lot of immature bucks cruising. So, very thankful though. I was able to put in one of my spots on public, was able to get my friend Mark, who hadn't shot a buck in 6 years, on a buck, and he was really happy about that. So I'm glad that he was able to take that buck. So, and unfortunately that morning, that was the next coldest morning of the year. That was mid-20s. I feel if I would have sat longer that morning, I probably would have had a shot at a buck. Unfortunately, I decided to, help him with his buck as soon as possible, which was fine. Don't get me wrong, I have no problem helping him, but if I could have redone things, I would have sat probably till 9 or 10 and then helped him and foregone my afternoon hunt, because unfortunately that afternoon I did not see a deer. And then I did see 3 doe the last Sunday morning of archery. Now that does bring up another failure I had this year, and that was equipment. This is the first time I've had this happen. Until 2023, I'd shot Hoyt for all 12 years of my archery career, and never had any issues. Really good, reliable bows. And this is year 2 with my phase 4. And 2 times in 3 days, one time traveling in the woods in one time just letting down my bow, I knocked the string off the bow. Never had that happen with Hoyt before, so that cost me an evening sit during the rut, and then it cost me a second one because I had to get the string put back on that Sunday hunt. And by the time I was done, I didn't have time to get back out. So I actually did trade that in on a Hoyt Carbon Arc 7, which I'll have a review on here in a couple weeks. And that seems to shoot a lot better. So that was a failure on my part for just having that happen. I mean, maybe it wasn't my fault, maybe, that the bow did that, but, I chose to buy that bow. So, quite frankly, like I said, I would call that a bad season. Now, some people who, again, nothing wrong with this, who shoot either any legal buck or, have a little lower trophy steering than me, they would be ecstatic with my season. They could have tagged out opening day and had multiple other opportunities at does and probably could have killed a buck and 2 doe by the end of October. So, if sitting in the same spot. So, it wouldn't have been a failure for everybody, but just for what I was looking for, it was not be able to get close enough to my number 1 target buck. Even though I did see him, I guess you could call that a success. I did, set up knowing he probably would move through that bedding area in the morning. He did. Setup was just a little off, unfortunately. But I've already put in multiple scouting trips this year, hoping to not let that happen again. I think my scouting was on point last year. I mean, there's probably a few other spots I could have hit that I didn't, but I think that was good. I don't know. I mean, other than the equipment thing, I think, some of my issue was, second guessing some spot decisions, maybe not giving some spots long enough. There's a multitude of things that happened. It just wasn't my year. Now, that being said, it kind of goes ebbs and flows for really good hunters. But for me, 2021 and 2022, killing 7.5 bucks both seasons, and 2022 killing 3 archery bucks and then a rifle buck in 2022. Both good storing bucks for Pennsylvania in my area. I mean, those are 2 years most hunters would take in a heartbeat if you told them before season they could have that. So, but struggle for me this year. Last year I got on deer, just kind of had some failures on my part. I felt I was more prepared for that. I put my time in this year, both with my compound, my inline, and my rifle. I just didn't get in front of the deer I was looking for, than that one encounter in which my setup was off. So, worst season I had in a while. I'm very motivated to make sure it doesn't happen in this fall and putting in the scouting out, so I have the best chance of it not happening. So, just staying positive and can't wait to get back in the woods this fall.
Thank you for watching this Dual Throat Outdoors video. If you like this video, be sure to leave it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe to our channel if you haven't already. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram for more Dual Throat Outdoors content.